Is the Asus G701Vi the fastest notebook on the market? Well, let's find out. Hi, this is Stephen from Owner Disown, and before I launch into my review of this Asus notebook, I would just like to ask if you guys could help me by donating to my channel. I have put a little PayPal symbol on my page up there. If you wouldn't mind, anything you can afford, that would be great. If not, don't worry about it. I didn't really want to ask for any donations, but I'm starting to struggle in financing these laptops. As you know, I've been buying them all, and I spent over $20,000 on this stuff, and I'm starting to get a little bit skint. So my plan would be any donations I would keep in my separate PayPal account there, and of course I could let you know what the totals are, and then once I have enough to buy a laptop or something like that, then I can review it and then raffle it off to you viewers, so you can get like a free notebook. So thanks again for your support. So let's launch into the full review of the Asus G701Vi. It is a beast of a notebook. It weighs about 9.2 pounds, so it's slightly lighter than the G752VS. It's about the same footprint though, and it has an i7-7820HK overclockable CPU and a GTX 1080 GPU in it, so it's pretty well loaded. It comes with 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM and two 256 gigabyte SSDs in RAID 0, so blazing fast speeds, as you can see by these Atto benchmark scores there. It boots up really fast in around about 17 seconds. It has a full HD 1080p 120Hz panel. It claims to have high viewing angles of about 178 degrees, and indeed indoor viewing angles are good. It's a TN panel, so it's pretty sweet for that, and even the outdoor viewing angles here are fine as well. It is a Gsync panel, so I'd like to point that out as well. Measuring the screen brightness, it's very similar to the Asus G752VS. Brighter than the MSI GT73VR, but not as bright as the QHD Alienware. The panel does exhibit quite bad light bleed, as you can see when you boot up, although I must say I don't notice it whilst gaming or general use. The hinge is tight, but you can still open and close it with one hand. The colour accuracy is pretty good, so here are my Spider 5 Pro tests. We get 66% of NTSC, 71% of Adobe RGB, and 95% of sRGB. So as you can see, I think it's quite a good all-round panel. It's good for gaming at 120Hz refresh rate, which is great, and the colour accuracy is quite good. So if you want to use it for video editing, photo work, I think it's good also for that. Looking at the design of the laptop, I do quite like it. I do like the lid. It's brushed aluminum, which contrasts well with the golden LED decals that light up and the embossed ROG symbol there at the back. And I also like the grills, which are not glaring gamer bright red, but nice subtle black, and with the Golden Republic of Gamers writing on the hinge. There's no ports in here other than the connector port for the power supply. And that's a bit of a tale of two cities for me, because it's not only is it big, but it clips in with a clasp, and it's hard to pull out at times. And I can see they're thinking that you don't want the large power brick to pull the cable out, which can happen, of course, with these things. But conversely, it's a bit of a hazard. You could trip over the wire, and the cord won't come out. Your laptop will go flying off your desk. So I'm a little bit on the fence on that one. Now let's have a look at the ports. On the left hand side, you'll see the speaker grill, two USB 3.0 ports, microphone jack, headphone jack, and SD card reader. On the right hand side, you'll see a USB 3.0 port, HDMI, display port, Thunderbolt port, USB 3.1 Type-C port, and the Ethernet port, and another speaker grill. Now underneath, it's plastic, with air vents here and here, and it's got venting on the sides as well. So this is where the air is brought in, and it's expelled out here, as you can see in my video clip here. Now looking at the top of the keyboard, it is an aluminum chassis here, so that's gives a bit of sturdiness, I should say. That's quite nice, and it's nice brushed aluminum with a soft touch thing here where your hands would go. Now I do like that's nice. It is a fingerprint magnet, so be careful of that. Now this takes us to the keyboard and the trackpad. I do like the trackpad. It's fairly large and it's smooth, and I do also like the big mouse buttons here. They are, they're large. They're silent as well, fairly silent for pressing, and it don't take too much pressure to click. Two fingers scrolling and pinch to zoom works really well. The keyboard can have a little bit of flex when you're pressing down on the keys hard. I mean, you're not going to do that often, but you do notice it anyhow. A bit more flex than normal. But I do like the red lighting, which is variable in 3 different stages, which you can activate using the a key on the keyboard. So you can turn it off and ramp it up 3 different stages there. There are nice macro keys here at the top, including one button to activate the XSplit Gamecaster software, and the other 5 can be used to activate various macro keys, assigning webcams or calculators, internet, whatever you want really on there. You press the button and there's 3 different profiles giving you 15 different combinations in all. There is a dedicated button for the ROG Game Center software. You press that and the software opens up. So let's take a quick look at that software. Unfortunately, I couldn't use the software to overclock the CPU or GPU. Normally, clicking on the system information, it would bring down options to do that. But I did try also using the software from the G752VS, and that still didn't work. I ended up using throttle stop to overclock the CPU and MSI Afterburner for the GPU. But it's still useful to see the various speeds and the temperatures. You can assign 3 different game profiles and relating to what macro key you want to assign it to, whether you want to free up memory on it, disable the Windows key, enable the hot zone lighting on the keyboard, or disable the touchpad. Clicking on Fan Boost allows you to alter the fan speed to a maximum of 6,000 RPM. Clicking on the Splendid tab allows you to view the monitor in different color options. Clicking on the ROG Game First tab allows you to configure the network information, including Wi-Fi, Ethernet and Bluetooth. Sonic Radar allows you to configure sound profiles for various games. You can turn the light bar on and off, and that's the LED lights on the lid. Hot zone lighting allows you to light up only the AWSD key area. And finally, the ability to turn on and off the headphone amplifier. Asus touts its ESS Saber DAC for improved audio through the headphones. When you are installing the initial software, which, you know, when you boot up, you're given an option to install various software like here, do not install the Avast antivirus, because that causes the Gaming Center software to crash and you can't get it loaded. So don't install Avast. But that being said, the software is still quite good for monitoring your fan speeds, for instance, or your temperatures and so forth. And I did find it useful for ramping up the fan speed to turbo to cool down the laptop even more. Now, I overclocked this laptop using throttle stop to get the CPU overclocked. I managed to get it to 4.6 gigahertz on core 0 and then 4.5 on the remaining cores. And I did tests on that with turbofan activated, and I also did tests at 4.4 gigahertz on all 4 cores, and left that at autofan, and I did tests using stock speeds and autofan as well. I want to quickly mention that in the BIOS in the advanced settings, there's no way to overclock the CPU. What a shame. Now let's listen to the fan noise. As you can see, autofan is very quiet. At idle, it's around about 600 RPM, and you can't hear it at all. It's fantastic. Even at load, when you're playing a game, say I've got Heaven Benchmark running here, that is pretty sweet. That's only like 2,100 RPM, and it's 27 decibels, so that's pretty quiet too. I was impressed with that. Albeit the cooling isn't so great then when you're gaming. You're averaging around about 93 degrees Celsius, so that does get pretty hot. Cranking up the turbo fan, yeah, you get about 53 decibels, so it does get a bit freaking noisy. But granted, not as loud as the MSI GT73VR, I must add, but it still gets loud, but the temperatures go way down. Fantastic. Brings it down to around about 86 Celsius or so, and I think that is a good performance. But make sure you wear your headphones when you do that. Measuring the chassis temperatures, the AWSD keys around about 31 degrees. The trackpad also about 31 degrees. The centre of the keyboard around about 39 degrees. The number pad about 34 degrees. Underneath in the centre around about 23 degrees. And slightly warmer at the back there, 33 degrees. Now the speakers, if we take a look at the internals of the laptop, which by the way you remove a series of screws around the base here and a couple in the middle. So take this hinge off and remove those screws, and you can the back just pops off nicely, and you can see inside there that you can there's 4 speakers. There's 2 at the front here, and 1 on either side at the back. They're not big speakers by any means, and I did not see a subwoofer. Other options inside there, you can increase the RAM slots. There's 2 RAM slots, so you can go up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. There's no extra storage options there, so you can't put a hard drive in or another SSD. You're limited to what you've got, which I think is a big factor, because these games are big now, and what I've tested on here took up most of the hard drive space, most of my 512 gigabytes, and the only storage options I've got now is an SD card. And I think for the price level, that is rather poor. So make sure you configure your laptop with the maximum amount of storage you can. It has an Intel 8260 Wi-Fi card in there, and I didn't have any problems. I had fast speeds when downloading my game, so that was nice. Let's listen to the speakers. Yeah, so it's strange. The speakers aren't that loud from the front of, maximum 70 decibels, say, but they're actually strangely louder at the back of the laptop. Go figure. So watch a movie behind the screen then, I say, but I can't work that out. So I was disappointed with the not only the volume, but there's no bass. The speakers were poor on here, so I think you definitely have to wear headphones, particularly when you're gaming and you got the turbo fan going there. You can't hear the game otherwise. You need the headphones. So that was a big downside. The turbo fan does a good job in keeping it cool, but it's loud. I also tested it using a Havit notebook cooler, put it on there, and kept it at 4.4 gigahertz auto fan, and it brought the temperature down from 93 degrees to 90 degrees and increased performance by about 1%. So that's a good solution. If you don't want to activate that turbo fan, a notebook cooler will help. The webcam on this is okay. This is what it looks and sounds like. And here's the webcam. At idle, the computer is very power frugal at 34 watts. Under normal gaming load, we're looking at 259 watts versus 171 watts on a GTX 1070. Overclocking increases the power consumption, 288 watts on the 701Vi and 194 watts on the G752VS with the GTX 1070. So let's take a quick look at the performance benchmarks. We'll start off with our 1080p benchmarks. I overclocked using MSI Afterburner, so you can see the CPU and GPU percentage uses in the top left hand corner. I test using stock settings and autofan, overclocking the CPU to 4.4 gigahertz in autofan, and I also overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz, but I actually use a turbofan. So there's a mistake on my slide. All my 4.5 gigahertz are turbofan. We had a strange result here where the best performance was actually using stock settings, amazingly. But look at the Asus G701VS with the GTX 1070. That achieved 119 frames per second, so go figure. Now for Doom at max settings, the stock configuration leads the way at 151 frames per second, but the GTX 1070 Asus G752VS is not too far away at 136 FPS. Now, Grand Theft Auto loves fast CPUs, so yep, the overclocked 4.5 GHz steals the show at 137 FPS, but the GTX 1070 G752VS not far behind at 130. In fact, that beats the stock configuration. So, Mafia 3 in high settings, overclocking the CPU in GPU, saw an excellent increase in performance, 92 FPS versus the stock 82 FPS. Metro Last Light is another one that loves an overclock, 139 FPS at max overclock settings. But look at the 125 FPS attained by the GTX 1070. That's not far away from the stock configuration here at 132. Rainbow Six Siege, max settings. Once again, overclocking yields a 10% improvement. But that GTX 1070, 86 FPS, right on the heels of the stock configuration at 90. Tomb Raider, max settings. Overclocking yields a slight increase in performance, and the GTX 1080 is about 8% faster than the GTX 1070. Arc on high settings, difficult to maintain any consistency even when running through the same scene, but it's safe to say it exceeds 60 FPS, as does the GTX 1070. Stepping things up to 3440 by 1440 resolution, overclocked to 4.5 GHz. Again, the turbo fan, not the auto fan. You safely can say that you pretty much get 60 FPS, apart from the odd game like Rainbow Six Siege, but fantastic performance. Looking at Firestrike with the total score in yellow, the graphics score there in white, and the physics score there in pink, you do see some nice improvement by overclocking. Notice the overclock score on the G752VS. That is so close to the stock clock on this G701Vi. So this slide on TimeSpy and Passmark clearly shows that overclocking can give about a 10% improvement. Now look at that TimeSpy score, over 7,000. That's the best I've seen so far. Moving on to some CPU benchmarks. Cinebench R15 CPU test, both single-threaded and multi-threaded, and those scores are fantastic. Look at the overclock scores there, very close to a desktop i7-7700K. Now, Handbrake loves fast CPUs and it's multi-threaded, so this is a great CPU test. Overclocking yielded about a 7% improvement, but for some reason the same CPU in the Asus G752VS yielded a much quicker time, so I don't know what was going on there, but still good scores nonetheless. As you can see, the performance was fantastic. It was really fast, and I can't complain with that at all. The only thing is when you compare it to a GTX 1070 notebook, for instance, like the G752VS, there's not that much difference between them, to be fair. There's probably 4 to 7% difference in gaming, I would say, but yet there's about a 20% price differential, because the GTX 1070 is around about $2,500, I'd generally say. So I think for a 1080p gaming, then I think the GTX 1070 is the way to go there for sure. Granted, this has a good old 120 Hz display, and you're certainly going to max it out, and you're going to be future-proof there going forward for sure. It's ideal at QHD display, or if you're hooking it to an external monitor, as I did in my 3440 by 1440 benchmarks, you're going to still get excellent frame rates there. So thumbs up for that. So it's a solid performer. I do wish it did have better storage options. For me, for sure. The battery life is good on this. We do have a 93 watt hour battery on it, and gaming, I was getting about hour and 18 minutes, and at streaming YouTube on power saver mode, 25% brightness, I got about 3 hours 50 minutes. So it certainly gets you by there. It's a large battery, but with it having Gsync, there's no Optimus support, but that's par for the course. I would like to have had the ability to switch to internal graphics by pressing a button or something like that, but that doesn't exist. So my main gripes, probably the power cord being too tight and can't get it in and out, out as easy, and lack of storage, and the speakers are poor. And also it does get hot at auto if you overclock it, and even at stock speed, so you need to do the turbo fan. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like my video, thumbs up, and I see you next time.